Hi everyone. I think you all are familiar with the classification of phylum Chordata. As you know, phylum Chordata is divided into three major subphyla: subphylum Urochordata, subphylum Cephalochordata, and subphylum Vertebrata. Now we can discuss about subphylum Urochordata. It is also known as Tunicata. Why these terms are given to this particular subphylum? Urochordata, the term indicates aura. The word aura means tail, coda indicates notochord, and eta means characterized by. That is, urochordates are a group of animals, notochord, present in the tail region of the larval phase. And the term tunicata indicates the body of these animals, they are covered by an outer covering called test or tunic. It is made up of a material called tunicin. And the test is an outer protective cover. It is secreted by the epidermis itself. Coming to the salient features of Urochordata, body is covered by an outer test made up of tunicin, and the free end of the body consists of two openings in this group of animals. First one is the mouth through which water enters into the body, and the second opening is the atriopore through which the water moves out of the body. The pharyngeal region of these animals, they are well developed, highly enlarged in nature, and they are perforated with the presence of numerous gill slits. These gill slits, they are also termed as stigmata. Body cavity or silo in this group of animals is not recognizable. Urochordates typically they are hermaphrodites. What are hermaphrodites? They are a group of animals in which both the male and female reproductive system occur in the same individual. Here also, testis and ovary occur within the same individual, and that's why they are considered as hermaphrodites. And development in this group of animals typically is indirect, that is, they are represented by a free swimming larval phase. Urochordates also show the process of metagenesis. What is metagenesis? It represents the process of alternation of generation between the sexual and asexual phases. And the most striking feature of subphylum Urochordata is the presence of retrogressive metamorphosis. As you all know, in most of the animals, metamorphosis is a complex phenomenon. Starting right from egg, larva, they pass through various phases and reaches adult stage. And during these stages, the complexity of this organism gradually increases. But in the case of urochordates, this complexity is getting reduced from the larval phase to the adult stage. Typically, the larva is more advanced and complex in nature when compared to the adult forms. That's why the metamorphosis is regarded as retrogressive in nature. The body form of this group of animals typically is sac-like in appearance. They can be colonial in nature, and usually they inhabit sea bottom. Coming to the classification of subphylum Urochordata, it is divided into three major classes: class 1 Acidiaceae, class 2 Thalliaceae, and class 3 Larvaceae, or it is also known as Appenticularia. First class Acidiaceae. Salient features. Typically, Acidiaceans, they are exclusively marine forms. They are bottom dwellers, and mostly they are sessile in nature. The body size and form vary. Individuals can be simple or compound. They may be solitary or colonial in nature. Another important feature is the presence of well-developed permanent test covering the body. Pharynx is enlarged in nature. They are perforated with numerous gill slits. Reproduction, both by sexual and asexual means. And as said earlier, development is indirect and it is characterized by the presence of a free swimming larval phase known as the tadpole larva. And why the ascidian larval phase is termed as tadpole larva? This is because the larva resembles the frog tadpole. And during the process of retrogressive metamorphosis, much of its chordate characters, and as it becomes adult, it get converted to a sessile form with degeneration of notochord, nerve cord, and tail. The most common example coming under class Ascidiaceae is Ascidium. Let's go through the morphology and details of Ascidium. Typically, Ascidia is a marine animal. It's a sessile form. They remain attached to a suitable substrate. But the larval phase is free swimming. Body is sac-like in nature. It is covered by an outer test made up of tunicin. And the free end of the body bears two major siphons. First one, as you can see in the figure, it represents the oral or the branchial siphon. And at the center of this siphon, we can see an opening called the mouth. And it is through the mouth that the incoming water current enters into the body. And the second siphon is the atrial or the exhalent siphon. And at the center of this siphon is a second opening called the atriopore, through which the water leaves the body after circulating within the body. And this incoming water current, it brings in food particles and oxygen for the process of respiration. At the same time, the outgoing water current, it carries out nitrogenous waste materials as well as the gametes or sex cells at the time of maturity. Then the pharyngeal region, it is well developed. It is perforated with the presence of numerous gill slits and it is surrounded by the large spacious atrium. And the atrium opens outside through the opening called the atrium. Ascidians, commonly they are known as sea squids. Why this name is given to ascidians? It is because when the animal is disturbed, suddenly they will contract the body and they can expel huge amount of water just like jet. So this animal is commonly known as sea squid. Or we can say that this enables the movement by jet propulsion also. Ascidia, typically it's a hermaphrodite. The testis and ovary lie within the loop of intestine. And usually the gametes mature at different times so that this enhances the process of cross-fertilization. The mature gametes, they are discharged into the atrial cavity and through the atriopore, external fertilization happens. This fertilized egg hatches out into a highly motile larva known as tadpole larva. The larva doesn't feed for a longer period of time, and this stage it is represented as the non-feeding stage of tadpole larva. Structure of tadpole larva. The tadpole larva, when it hatches out, is about 3 millimeters in length. It has an elliptical head with a round trunk and a long tail. At the time of metamorphosis, it remains a suitable substratum with the help of adhesive papillae or chin wart. There are 3 adhesive papillae One is mid-dorsal in position and two ventrolateral. The tail is laterally compressed. It consists of a caudal fin which is in continuation with the dorsal and ventral fins. And these fins, they are supported by structures called striae. What are striae, or what is the importance of striae? They can be considered as the precursors of fin rays of fishes. The nervous system of the tadpole larva consists of an enlarged anterior sensory vesicle, and this opens into the pharynx through an opening called the neurope. And the remaining portion of the nerve cord continues as a hollow part which represents the spinal cord. Within this anterior sensory vesicle, we can see certain sense organs also. A median eye with retina, cornea, and lens is present. And the second sense organ is statocyst, which maintains body balance. Notochord of the animal is restricted to the tail region. Segmental muscle bands occur on either side of the notochord, and its contraction helps in the movement of tail. Typically, the tadpole larva, it is positively phototatic and negatively geotatic in nature. That is, they are attracted towards light. At the same time, that is, they always try to remain towards water. And after a brief period of active life, about 3 hours of non-feeding, free swimming existence, the larva becomes sluggish in nature and it moves about in search of a suitable substratum for attachment. They prefer hard substratums. The larva fixes itself to the substratum with the help of adhesive papillae or chinwad as said earlier. Gradually, it becomes negatively phototatic as well as positively geotatic, and the process of metamorphosis begins. Coming to metamorphosis, you can say that the tadpole larva in Ascidia exhibits a two-way process during metamorphosis. That is, here we can observe retrogressive changes as well as some progressive changes. Most of the typical chordate structures present in the larva are lost during the process of metamorphosis. That's why it's termed as retrogressive metamorphosis. At the same time, some structures show further development, which is necessary for the survival of the adult. So, some progressive changes can also be observed during the process of metamorphosis. Now, let's see what are the retrogressive changes as well as the progressive changes that happens in the body of this animal. The given figure clearly indicates the progressive as well as retrogressive changes that occurs during metamorphosis in Ascidia. After getting fixed to a suitable substratum, the tadpole larva undergoes the following progressive change. The major retrogressive changes that occurs during metamorphosis include shortening of the tail. There is a reduction in the number of striae supporting the tail fins, and finally the entire tail disappears. The notochord becomes coiled, disorganized, and disappears along with the tail. The elongated nerve cord becomes restricted to the trunk region, and gradually it gets reduced to form a single solid ganglion. At the same time, the sense organs located within the cerebral vesicle also undergo degeneration, that is, the ocelli as well as the statocyst disappears. Number of striae get reduced, muscle bands also get degenerated. Another major change is that there is a shifting of the mouth at about 90 degrees. This occurs due to the rapid growth of the region between adhesive papillae and mouth, as well as a suppression that occurs at the original dorsal side of the body. And as a result of these changes, the long axis become vertical instead of horizontal. Now coming to the progressive changes that occurs during metamorphosis. The pharynx get enlarged in size, the number of stigmata or gill slits increases, trunk get broadened, atrium enlarges, velum appears. Velum is a membrane that separates the mouth and the oral cavity. Postpharyngeal region get differentiated, stomach, intestine, etc. become well developed, and the reproductive organs also gradually starts development. And by the end of metamorphosis, that is within about 1 or 2 days, the active free swimming larva with well developed tail supported by notochord, well developed nervous system, associated specialized sensory organs get degenerated to form a fixed non-motile adult in which almost all the typical chordate characters get disappear, except the gill slits, endostyle, and structures associated with feeding. And two major views with respect to the retrogressive metamorphosis in Ascidia. First one, it is suggested that phagocytosis is one of the primary causes of larval tissue destruction. That is, some of the body cells ingest and digest the larval tissues. And second view is that relative tissue starvation can lead to the process of retrogressive metamorphosis. Initially, the larva that hatches out from the fertilized egg, they for about 3 hours of time they remain non-feeding, and during that period the tissue starvation can happen. Now coming to the second class of subphylum, Urochordata, class Thaliacea. Salient features. They indicate a group of free-swimming pelagic solid thin and transparent in nature when compared to ascidians. The tusks remain closely attached to the body. Another striking feature is the presence of body muscles in the form of circular bands, and contraction of these muscle bands helps in jet propulsion. Here also, pharynx is well developed with the presence of two large gill slits or with numerous small gill slits. Tail with notochord is present only in the larval phase. Reproduction can be sexual or asexual. Life history typically exhibits the process of alternation of generation between the sexual and asexual phases. The common example coming under this class is Salpa. Salpa is also a pelagic tunicae with a transparent outer test. Coming to the body shape, typically the body is barrel shaped with two openings, mouth and atriopore at the opposite ends of the body. Muscle bands are in the form of incomplete rings. An endostyle, well-developed endostyle is present. What is endostyle? That is, the floor of pharyngeal region is highly thickened in nature, and this thickened area is named as endostyle. Then a single gill is represented in the form of dorsal lamina. The animal is also characterized by the presence of a single tentacle on the dorsal side of the body. In Salpa, the internal organs together is named as nucleus. What is nucleus in Salpa? It represents the digestive organs, heart, and gonads together. They get concentrated in a particular spot to form an opaque mass, and this opaque mass is regarded as nucleus. Dorsal to the nerve ganglion, there is a red pigmented band which is the origin of time. Salpa exists in two forms, that is the asexual as well as the sexual phases, and they show alternation of generation between these two phases. The sexual forms typically are hermaphrodites, testis and ovary mature at different times which enhance cross fertilization. The mature gametes, they are released into the atrium and a single egg develops in the atrial cavity of mother. The developing embryo forms an oozoid which represents the asexual form, and later it gets separated off from the parent body. You can see both the sexual and asexual phases in the diagram. Asexual form typically reproduced by the process of budding. A structure called stolon develops from the ventral body wall. And from the stolon, numerous buds will arise and they are termed as zooids. The zooids develop gonads. They get separated off from the parent body and form the sexual form. So we can conclude that Salpa is typically dimorphic in nature. That is, they can exist in the sexual as well as asexual phases, and they show the phenomenon of alternation of generation. Now coming to the third class under subphylum Urochordata, class Larvaceae, also known as Appendicularia. Salient features of this class: they are represented by minute, free-swimming, pelagic forms with a well-developed tail. The tail is supported by notochord and large striped muscles. They are known as Appendicularia because the tail with the notochord is loosely articulated like an appendage to the trunk region of this animal. So, it resembles the appendage of animals. A large test is present and this can be shed off readily. At the same time, they can replace it by a new one also. That is, when they are getting attacked by the enemies, they can escape by shedding off the large test. At the same time, it gets regenerated. Then, for feeding, an elaborate filter apparatus is attached with the test region, which helps in filtering the food particles. Pharynx is perforated by the presence of a single pair of gill slit. Nerve cord is persistent throughout lifetime. Typically, they are hermaphrodites. And why they are named as Larvaceae? Because they are a group of animals which exhibit the phenomenon of neoteny. What is neoteny? It's a process of retaining the larval characters whole throughout the lifetime. This phenomenon is termed as neoteny. And since they retain their larval characters whole throughout their lifetime, they are named as Larvaceae. The common example coming under Larvaceae is Oikopleuron. It's a tiny free-swimming pelagic tunicate. It also constructs an outer protective house around its body. Typically, its house, known as oikos, is produced by the outer epidermal epithelium. Body is round in nature with a long ribbon-like tail attached to the posterior region. It's attached to the body through ball and socket mechanism. The tail is supported by notochord, nerve cord, and muscles. At the anterior region of the body, For feeding, a mouth opening is present, which leads into a large pharynx provided with two ventral ciliated stigmata or gill slits. The floor of pharynx is thickened and it forms the endostyle. The gill slits open directly to the exterior as there is no atrium. The pharynx continues and forms the rest region of the gut. It is represented by esophagus, stomach, and intestine, which opens to the exterior through an opening called anus. The nervous system is represented by a cerebral ganglion, which lies adjacent to the mouth, from which arises the nerve cord, which runs to the tip of the tail. Typically, Oikopleura is also a hermaphrodite. The gonads lie at the posterior part of the body. On attaining sexual maturity, the mature sperms are released through a temporary opening on the skin, and the ova are released by the rupture of body wall, after which the animal usually dies.